Welcome back to China. What if I told you that a quarter from 1990 could be hiding a value that most people would completely miss? Imagine finding an old Washington quarter in a drawer, a coin jar, or even your pocket change. You look at it and see nothing special, just another 25-cent coin. But what if the date says 1990, and underneath Washington's neck you see a small letter P? Before you spend that coin, stop for a moment, because today on Hardest Penny, we're taking a close look at a coin that deserves much more attention than most people give it. 1990p Washington Quarter Dollar. The 1990p Washington Quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and is one of the regular issue Washington quarters from the late 20th century. At first glance, it looks almost identical to millions of other quarters from this period. George Washington appears on the obverse, facing left, with the word Liberty above him, In God We Trust on either side, and the date 1990 below. On the reverse, you'll find a familiar American eagle surrounded by United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar. But here's the important part. The 1990p quarter was produced in very large numbers. Philadelphia struck approximately 650,956,000 examples. That enormous mintage means an ordinary circulated 1990p quarter is not considered a rare coin simply because it carries the 1990 date or the P mint mark. And this is something every coin hunter needs to understand. A coin can be old, interesting, and collectible without automatically being worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. When collectors search through modern coins, they're not always looking for extremely low mintages. Sometimes they're searching for coins that survived in unusually high condition. A quarter that spent years moving through cash registers, vending machines, pockets, and coin machines will usually show scratches, contact marks, dirt, and wear. But a coin that was carefully preserved can look dramatically different. Take your 1990p quarter and examine the obverse under good lighting. Start with Washington's face. Look at his cheek, jaw, hair, and the surrounding fields. These areas can reveal whether the coin experienced heavy contact. A circulated coin will normally show signs of wear, while a high-grade, uncirculated example can retain much sharper detail. Now look carefully at the date. The numbers 1, 9, 9, and 0 should be clear and properly formed. Then locate the small P mint mark. This mint mark identifies the Philadelphia Mint, and it is one of the easiest ways to distinguish this coin from the 1990D quarter struck at Denver. Next, turn the coin over. And that brings us to one of the biggest mistakes people make when searching for valuable coins: confusing shiny with uncirculated. A coin can be shiny because it has been cleaned, polished, or exposed to certain conditions. That does not necessarily mean it has a high collector value. In fact, cleaning can damage the original surface and make a coin less desirable to serious collectors. If you think your 1990p quarter might be valuable, don't polish it. Don't scrub it. Don't use chemicals. And don't try to make it look newer. Leave the surface exactly as you found it and examine it carefully. Now let's talk about the value. Most ordinary circulated 1990p Washington quarters are worth close to face value. Depending on condition and the current collector market, an average example usually does not command a huge premium. That's why it would be misleading to say that every 1990p quarter is a rare treasure. But high-grade examples can tell a completely different story. Professional grading companies track exceptional examples of these coins, and auction records show that superb condition 1990p quarters can sell for significantly more than 25 cents. PCGS records a 1990p Washington quarter graded MS-67 that sold at auction for $1,440 in January 2019. That is an incredible difference from the coin's original face value. However, this kind of result represents an exceptionally high-grade coin, not the typical quarter you find in circulation. This distinction is extremely important. If you find a 1990p quarter in your change and it has scratches, dull surfaces, obvious wear, and lots of contact marks, don't expect it to be worth $1,000. But if you discover a coin with exceptional preservation, strong details, attractive surfaces, and very few imperfections, then you may have something worth investigating further. And there is another thing to watch for: unusual mint-made characteristics. Some collectors search for double details, unusual strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die problems, and other genuine mint errors. But be careful. Not every strange-looking mark is an error. A scratch caused by another coin is not a double die. A dent caused after the coin left the mint is not necessarily a mint error. Damage can make a coin look unusual, but genuine errors are created during the minting process. This is why comparison is so important. If your 1990p quarter looks different from normal examples, take clear photographs and compare it with authenticated examples. Pay particular attention to the date, lettering, mint mark, and major design elements. If something appears genuinely unusual, consider having the coin examined by a professional or an experienced error coin specialist. Another major factor is grading. Collectors use grades to describe a coin's condition. Circulated coins can range from heavily worn examples to lightly circulated pieces, while uncirculated coins are generally graded on the MS or mint state scale. At the highest levels, even tiny marks can make a major difference. For example, an MS-64 coin and an MS-67 coin may both look uncirculated to an inexperienced collector, but their market values can be dramatically different. At the highest grades, coins are judged extremely carefully for marks, luster, strike quality, and overall eye appeal. That's why you should never assume that your coin is worth a four-figure amount just because you found a price online for a high-grade example. The grade matters. The authenticity matters. The exact variety or error matters. And the actual market demand matters. So what should you do if you find a 1990p quarter today? First, don't spend it immediately. Second, handle it carefully by the edges. Third, examine both sides under bright, natural, or neutral lighting. Fourth, check the date and P mint mark. Fifth, look for unusual features that appear to be part of the original strike rather than damage. And finally, if the coin appears to be in exceptional condition, consider professional evaluation. The fascinating thing about the 1990p Washington quarter is that it shows us why coin hunting can be so exciting. The coin was made in enormous numbers, yet a tiny fraction of those coins may survive in extraordinary condition. Hundreds of millions were produced, but collectors don't necessarily want just any example. They want the best examples. And that's the challenge. You could search through hundreds of quarters and find nothing special. Then, one day you might notice a 1990p quarter that looks unusually sharp and clean. You pick it up. You examine Washington's portrait. You check the fields. You turn it over and inspect the eagle. Suddenly, you realize that this ordinary-looking quarter may deserve a second look. That's the moment every coin hunter lives for. So remember, the 1990p Washington quarter is not automatically rare because of its date or mint mark. Its large mintage means most examples are common. But condition, exceptional preservation, and legitimate mint errors or varieties can make individual examples much more interesting. And that is why you should never judge a coin only by its face value. A quarter may be worth 25 cents in everyday spending, but the right example can be worth dramatically more to a collector. So before you throw that old quarter into a vending machine or drop it into a jar, check the date. Look for the P. Study the condition. And most importantly, keep searching, because here on Hardest Penny, we believe that treasure doesn't always look like treasure. Sometimes it looks like an ordinary quarter. And sometimes the coin everyone else ignores is exactly the one you should be looking at. If you enjoyed this coin hunt, stay with Hardest Penny for more stories about old coins, valuable varieties, rare errors, and the hidden treasures that could still be sitting in your pocket change. Who knows? The next coin you find might be worth far more than the number stamped on its surface. If you want, I can make the next coin script more suspenseful and viral style, with a stronger check your coin now hook and a dramatic value reveal near the end. I'll keep it as one continuous English script, around 1,200 words, with a strong hook and no sections. Since you asked for only one coin, the coin heading appears once in bold. I'll also keep the value claims realistic rather than suggesting every 1992D quarter is automatically rare. The 1992D had a large mintage of 389,777,107, but high-grade examples can be much more valuable. What if I told you that a quarter sitting in an old coin jar, a drawer, or even your pocket could be worth far more than the 25 cents written on it? Most people would probably laugh and spend it without giving it a second look. But coin collectors know something different. Sometimes the real value of a coin is not what is printed on it, but the story, condition, rarity, and hidden details that survive on its surface. And today, on Hardest Penny, we are taking a close look at one particular coin that many people have overlooked for decades. 1992 de Washington Carte Dollar. At first glance, this 1992 D Washington quarter looks like an ordinary American quarter. It carries the familiar portrait of George Washington on the front, with the date 1992 and the small letter D identifying the Denver Mint. On the reverse, you can see the classic eagle design that appeared on Washington quarters during this era. The coin has a reeded edge, measures about 24.3 millimeters across, and weighs approximately 5.67 grams. It is made from copper nickel clad over a copper center, which was the standard composition for circulating Washington quarters of this period. But here is where things become interesting. The 1992 D Washington quarter was not produced in a tiny number. In fact, the Denver Mint struck 389,700,000. Start with the obverse, the front side of the coin. Look closely at Washington's portrait. Are the major details still sharp? Can you clearly see the hair, facial features, lettering, and date? Or has the coin spent years circulating through cash registers, vending machines, pockets, and parking meters? Every small contact mark can affect the grade of a coin. Now look at the date, 1992. Make sure the numbers are clearly formed and haven't been altered or damaged. Then find the tiny D mint mark. That D tells you the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. Mint marks are extremely important in coin collecting because coins with the same date can have very different production histories, depending on where they were struck. Next, turn the coin over and inspect the reverse. The eagle should have clear feathers and well-defined details. Pay attention to the lettering, the rim, and the overall sharpness of the design. A coin with strong original details and very few marks can be considerably more desirable than a heavily circulated example. And this is where the condition of the 1992 D quarter becomes especially important. A normal circulated 1992 D quarter is generally not a high-dollar coin. According to the NGC price guide information available in July 2026, circulated examples are generally listed around 30 cents to 85 cents depending on condition, meaning many ordinary pieces are worth only slightly more than face value. But do not stop there. The story changes dramatically when we start talking about exceptional uncirculated coins. Imagine finding a 1992 D quarter that appears almost untouched. The surfaces are bright, the details are sharp, the lettering is crisp, and there are very few contact marks. A coin like that may attract serious collector attention because high-grade examples from this issue are much harder to find than the enormous mintage number might suggest. According to NGC, its current guide information lists a 1992 D Washington quarter at much higher levels in pristine grades, with an MS-67 example shown at $785. That does not mean every shiny 1992 D quarter is worth hundreds of dollars. Far from it. The grade must be professionally determined, and the market price can change depending on demand, IAPL, certification, and the actual coin being sold. PCGS also records an auction result of $1,763 for a 1992 D Washington quarter graded MS-67, sold by Heritage Auctions in November 2013. That is an important reminder of just how much the condition of a common coin can matter. The difference between an ordinary circulated quarter and an exceptionally preserved example can be enormous. And this is exactly why collectors should never judge a coin only by its age. A 1992 coin is not ancient. It is not a silver quarter from the early years of the Washington series. It is a modern copper nickel-clad quarter. But if one example survived with extraordinary preservation, that coin can become much more interesting to collectors. There is another important point you should remember. Do not confuse damage with a valuable mint error. You may find scratches, dents, discoloration, flattened areas, strange marks, or unusual shapes on an old quarter. Many of these features are simply the result of circulation or damage after the coin left the mint. A genuine mint error is something that happened during the manufacturing process, and proving that difference can require careful examination. So if your 1992D quarter looks strange, do not immediately assume you have discovered a rare error worth thousands of dollars. First, compare the coin with authenticated examples and learn exactly what you are looking at. If you discover a beautiful-looking 1992D quarter, resist the temptation to polish it. Scrubbing, rubbing, or using chemicals can permanently damage the original surface and may reduce collector appeal. For valuable coins, original surfaces are often far more important than artificial shine. Instead, hold the coin by its edges and inspect it under good lighting. Look for scratches across Washington's face, heavy marks around the fields, damage to the rim, and where on the highest points of the design. Then check the reverse for similar problems. If the coin looks truly exceptional, professional grading may be worth considering. Certification can help authenticate the coin, assign a standardized grade, and make it easier for collectors to evaluate. But grading fees should also be considered because not every 1992D quarter will be valuable enough to justify certification. So, is your 1992D Washington quarter worth hundreds of dollars? Probably not if it is a normal circulated example. But could an exceptionally preserved example be worth substantially more than face value? Absolutely. The documented auction history and current price guide information show that high-grade examples can command significant premiums. And that is the real lesson behind this coin. The most exciting part of coin collecting is not always finding a coin with an incredibly low mintage. Sometimes it is finding an ordinary-looking coin that survived in extraordinary condition. Think about the journey of a quarter minted in Denver in 1992. It could have been placed into a cash drawer, passed through thousands of hands, dropped onto a sidewalk, scratched against other coins, or spent in a vending machine. Yet somewhere among hundreds of millions of examples, a small number could have escaped most of that damage and survived in remarkable condition. That is what makes collectors look twice. So if you have a 1992D Washington quarter, don't throw it into the spending pile just yet. Take it out. Look at the date. Find the D mint mark. Study Washington's portrait. Check the reverse. Examine the edge. Look for wear, marks, scratches, and especially overall preservation. And remember, the number 1992 alone does not make this quarter rare. The 1992D issue had a mintage of nearly 390 million coins. The real opportunity is in finding an unusually high-grade example or a genuine mint made variety or error that can be properly verified. So the next time someone says, it's only a quarter, you might want to take another look. Because in the world of coin collecting, sometimes a coin's face value tells only the beginning of the story. This is hardest penny, and if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories, unusual details, and potential value behind everyday coins, keep checking your change. You never know when an ordinary-looking piece of metal could turn out to be the coin everyone wishes they had found first. If you want, I can also make this more dramatic and YouTube retention-focused with stronger suspense, don't spin this coin hooks, and a more viral style ending while keeping it factually accurate.